Can I ask you something? When the fuck you gonna grow your hair back? I'm tired. Yes, I said, yes, tired. You're bald-headed in the mother. You told me you was getting the Halle Berry look. Halle Berry don't look like that.
What's going on, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Tunji's podcast. I am your host, Tunji Taylor Lewis. You know, guys, a lot of people have been asking me, Tunji, I see that you're in a relationship. You guys seem to be happy. What are the keys for being in a long-lasting, healthy relationship? Well, I'll tell you. I'll tell you what it takes to be in a healthy, long-lasting relationship. I have no idea. I'm actually not going to tell you guys that because, I'm not going to be one of those people on Instagram who thinks that just because they have a few thousand followers that all of a sudden that they're experts on stuff that everybody wants to know about. That's more of my discussion for today. It's I'm annoyed with a lot of influencers who want to be experts on relationships or health and wellness or entrepreneurship or being a businessman or a businesswoman. I get really annoyed with these types of influencers because if you just take a look at how you've built your influence. You've built your influence on, shout out to It's the Rock Boys from Brooklyn. How you doing? Long time follower. Thank you so much. I love you and appreciate you. The way how you built your influence was through being an entertainer. And I don't know why being an entertainer isn't enough for a lot of people on Instagram or YouTube or whatever, or they're on TikTok, whatever. I don't know why that's not enough. Because entertaining people, making them laugh, making them, feel good is a really beautiful thing. And I don't know why a lot of these influencers, especially ones that are comedians, kind of get into this mode of trying to be all serious and trying to be an expert on shit, right? Shout out to Mohammed Rika. How are you? I'm doing good. How are you, bro? For me, personally, I kind of set it up to make it seem like I was going to talk about relationship stuff, and this isn't any relationship advice at all. This is just something I genuinely believe. I just believe that everybody, how they get into a relationship, or how they find their happiness is individual to them. You know what I'm saying? A lot of these questions can only be answered, by people who have, a whole lot of experience in it, number one. But also just within yourself, I feel almost no two relationship stories or relationship origin stories are the same. It's never always, the man always pursued the woman. A lot of times the woman, chased down the man and he didn't know it. Sometimes it just happened by happenstance. Sometimes it just happens, love at first sight. Sometimes, one person didn't want anything to do with the other person, but then slowly but surely through persistence, they ended up convincing that person to go on a date with them. And, side note, that's how I thought I had to do it. Being the underdog, I talked about yesterday, pursuing. Eventually, I'll convince a girl to go on a date with me. The way I got into my relationship was, it was just so happened. We crossed paths. We both thought we were attractive. And then it happened. We have the same values. And it just kind of, snowballed from there. But that's just my story. And I've only been in a relationship for, I haven't been in a relationship that long. And I don't understand how people who I see have been in a relationship for, just as long as I have, all of a sudden feeling comfortable giving other people advice on what makes for a good and healthy relationship. It really does not make any sense doesn't make any sense to me. I don't know. I think the thing that bothers me about it is just the blatant lack of authenticity. That's just something that bothers me. I just hate it when people just so clearly aren't being themselves, and they're putting up a front, and they're putting up this image of what they feel like people want them to be. And and especially bugs me when it comes from comedians or entertainers, because like, you know, comedians, people who make people laugh, people who entertain people, people who lift their spirits, like that's something that I personally love and cherish. And so when I see somebody who has the ability to do that and yet choose, you know, to make that secondary as opposed to being, you know, inspirational, or being, an example, or being what's the word I'm looking for? Just a role model. Like, drives me freaking insane, man. Like, if people see you as a role model, that's up to them, but you can't impose being a role model onto people. I also feel like that's something that we need to stop doing as people, man. Like, just because somebody has, like, you know, like a bunch of followers on social media, it doesn't automatically make them a role model. It just makes them somebody who entertains you, or looks good, or has like great athletic ability, or, you know, just for whatever reason you follow them, right? You like them personally, whatever the reason might be. And this is not a knock against people whose gift is in, being inspirational. Like, if that's your gift, like, run with that. If your gift is in, like psychology and helping people with their health and wellness, run with that. I'm not criticizing any of those types of influencers at all. I'm simply going at the people who started off one way, got to a place of influence, and then all of a sudden switched up because they feel like they're all of a sudden above and beyond people, and they're not actually operating in their gift. They're just being something that they aren't, because, that happens to be the trend at that time. Drives me freaking crazy, man. I feel like that might even be the thing that, frustrates me about Kevin Hart. Man, I'm really going on people today. But, like, I feel like that's something... I do feel like Kevin Hart, sometimes when he gets into his, inspirational, motivational stuff, I do feel like sometimes it's a bit put on and forced, because I've talked about this in an earlier podcast. I might be repeating myself a whole bunch, and I apologize for that, guys. But, like, there was one point where the dude... all he cared about was being, the dumbest guy in the room, the silliest guy in the room, the funny guy, the guy everybody could point and laugh at. And then all of a sudden he switched from being the guy who everybody could point and laugh at to the guy who everybody had to take seriously, because, like, he was, saying all this, inspirational stuff about life. And it's just like, not that that's a bad thing, not that that stuff can't provide value, but my issue was that it became secondary to the funny. And that's what, at the end of the day, that's why I fell in love with Kevin Hart. It was just pure, unequivocal, just raw, funny. Said the stuff that was edgy but made us laugh because he was, little and small, and, like, had the funny voice, you know what I mean? Like, and I guess maybe that's just human nature, because, like, I guess a lot of it's real easy for me to be saying this stuff right now, because, like, nobody's been throwing any opportunities at me that come with a check. And, when people get a good check thrown at them, all of a sudden they sort of, like, falling in line with, like, like the brand, management stuff and being clean cut and all that stuff. So I'm definitely not in a situation where I can legitimately say that I would never switch up if, even if money came. Like, I can't say that because I've never been through that. But, at this time, as I presently feel, like, like with the influence that I've sort of amassed, the small influence that I've amassed, like, my whole thing is, like, I just want to be as authentic as possible. I just want to give my audience the real me. Like, I want people to see my flaws, so that you can freaking see that I'm a human being, so that when I make mistakes, it's not a huge controversy. It's just like, yeah, Tunji's talked about that struggle all the time, you know what I'm saying? So, yeah, man, it's just like something I've had in my head for a while. I just, like, wish that people on social media, influencers, or just people in general, man, let's just be ourselves on here, man. And I think that when we truly are ourselves, that's where, like, influence can be built, because when you're your unique self, that stands out from the rest, and that's a reason that gives people a reason to follow you, right? So, I just can't imagine, making a whole bunch of money and building a huge influences off of a character or a caricature of myself that's untrue and doesn't actually, represent who I am. Like, that would be extremely, extremely miserable. So, rant over. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. For those of you who believe in prayer, please pray for me. I've been feeling like kind of like just like stressed out and angry about some stuff in my life right now lately. I will definitely talk about it later as things get resolved. But if y'all could keep me in your prayers, would really appreciate that. Thank y'all so much for listening and watching. Peace out.